Every November, we take some time to look back on the year before, and we take inventory of the ways that we saw God moving, leading, restoring, and loving our community forward. And we tell those stories and celebrate the highlights. Last year, God invited us to flourish. Believing that God's heart for His people is flourishing in every season, a year of shift and transition was no exception. As a church family, we adopted the values of listening, learning and discovering, forging deeper connection, diversity and inclusion, and the agility to respond to the leading of the Spirit as our metrics. So it's through this lens that we looked back on 23-24. I asked each of our staff team to choose their top 3 instances of God at work from their own vantage points. And guess what? There was so much crossover. The work of the Spirit is undeniable and a powerful force, folks. And what better way to share this stuff widely than a top 10 list? Quick disclaimer, these are not ranked in chronological order or by spiritual significance. We acknowledge the stories of God at work this past year are endless, but we don't have that much time. And so we present to you the top 10 ways we have seen God working at Forest Brook this past year. Number 10. Planning Center. We made a move to smarter, more efficient, more cost-effective solution so that we can spend less time and money on admin and more on loving God and loving others. Related to this, our admin volunteer team has grown. Shout out to Julie Walsh, Kim Collicott, and Chris Ennis for being an extraordinary support system for all ministries, and in so many ways, the front line of welcome for our neighbors. Number 9, rejuvenation in our worship community. Jeff Vail landed on our doorstep in early 2023 looking for a place to call home. An infusion of excitement and beautiful worship has followed. Thursday night practices have emerged as times of connection and sharing and prayer among team members. We've seen the face of our teams begin to more closely represent our church family, and we are so encouraged by the leadership of our younger musicians in this way. Number 8, the More Room. A little space in the church basement, and also a name for the movement of an emerging leadership team who meets consistently to listen, learn, and discern together, and dream together about what God's future for Forest Brook looks like. Number 7, Summer Youth. An open posting funded by a government grant and a random convo one Sunday led to Deborah Nash joining us for the summer. Through this, Summer Youth was reimagined with a real focus on building relationships in our neighborhood. Events were fun and attendance was off the charts, but more than that, real trust was forged, and it has been incredible to see it continue through our new friends on Tuesday nights. Number 6, children's ministry, new little faces and new leaders. New families have been such a special addition to the CM community. Familiar faces of newly minted youth who have returned as leaders to pour back into those coming up behind them is one of our most favorite circles of life at Forest Brook. And we've seen this over the past year in so many ways. Number 5, the sermon series pivot. Probably not as obvious to the typical user, but a big bump internally. Our winter sermon series plans took a big turn at the 11th hour when we sensed the Spirit was redirecting us somewhere new. Kevin picked up an old book on his shelf that he never read, and the floodgates opened to stranger love and the radical hospitality of Jesus. Shifting plans and leaving ideas behind isn't always a first impulse, but God has rewarded our community richly for following this lead. Number 4, talking and listening some more. Our muscles for meaningful conversation and connecting in community are growing. We integrated discussion as a regular fixture in our Sunday morning rhythm. We filmed and shared the Flourish conversations, and we Selah'd together. We sharing our experiences and learnings and wonderings and challenges has added such richness and relevance to our wider gatherings. Number 3, day camp. Community-based, student-led, love-driven. This past summer, after one of our most successful camp seasons yet, we collected feedback from families. The incredible staff, quality music, stories, and program, a spirit of welcome, and excellent safety and care for their children were huge themes. Many families identified with the statement, "Day camp is my church," and what a beautiful thing that is. Number 2, a growing friendship with the CFOC. From the beginning of our journey with Pastor Frederica, we sensed a real kinship. The heart of generosity and hospitality that's embodied in that community is nothing short of inspiring. We jumped at the opportunity to contribute financially and to engage the whole Forest Brook family in honoring these friends who had asked for us to come alongside of their support of refugees and newcomers in precarious and unhoused realities in our own backyard. We then hosted the CFOC's Stronger Together last spring, a celebration in community. And a story that must be shared in full. Please talk to Lisa Suderman for the full extended version. Is a rental partner, a local volleyball team who lost their space for the evening for the event and instead jumped in to contribute to the celebration by running an open and inclusive volleyball game for the patrons. A reminder of the power of community. And the number one way that we saw God at work this past year at Forest Brook, well, it's gotta be the pineapples, right? The international symbol of hospitality and welcome took on the persona of the Stranger Love journey that we mentioned a minute ago. Pop-up flourish groups, a Greg Paul interview series, a whole pineapple-themed meal and celebration. A very important chord in our collective heart as a church body has been stirred. This season gave us language and context for the call to love our neighbors well. We get the sense that the pineapple and all it represents will be a foundation we stand on for many years to come. Of course, the ways that God has moved over this past year far exceeds a list of 10. The offshoots of each one of these are exponential. Honorable mention, of course, goes to Fall Fest and the bulbs that were planted in October and bloomed to life last spring. Things like the Connections Cafe and all of our unmarket vendors that are the hands and feet examples of God moving in practical ways among us. The emerging themes of witness and liturgizing for Monday have helped us to reframe the ways our faith connects with our ordinary lives in our ordinary ways. Every season is for flourishing, in the widest definition of that word. And we are so grateful as we look back for the ways that we have seen God move in full bloom.